Okay, I hope that there are people there now. Sorry about that again. There seemed to be some kind of flicker in the power. The lights went out and the computers flickered, and then we weren't sure whether it was still going out live. So maybe you already know this information. But I'll start again anyway. So the Torah portion is Shelach Lecha today, means send for yourself. And it's about the 12 spies being sent out. It's the sin of the spies. So I want to examine a concept, the first part, which is brought up by this, kind of going to be an overarching theme throughout the Torah portion. And that is the idea of when one believes that Yehovah is Elohim, how do you respond to that? Do you respond by believing him in what he says? Because it's a very different thing to say that you believe that there is a created God. You believe that Yehovah is the created God. You believe that his word is true. You can believe all of those things and yet still not believe Yehovah. Believing Yehovah involves trusting Yehovah. And the sin of the spies that we're going to see today is they went out to the land. They'd been told that the land was good. They came back, in fact, and said that the land was good. They'd been told that their enemies were going to be driven out before them. But when they came back, they said, these people are massive. There's no way that we can defeat these people. So they believed that Yehovah was Elohim, that seen all his signs and wonders in bringing them out of Egypt. But they didn't believe him. They didn't trust Yehovah. And the same is true of so many people today. We see that only Joshua and Caleb, 2 out of the 603,000 men that came out of Egypt, only Joshua and Caleb got to enter the promised land because they were the ones who came back and they said, come on, we can go and we can do it. If Yehovah is with us, we can do it. So when Yehovah said that he would protect Israel and he would drive out their enemies before them, they believed him. It didn't matter what they had seen. They believed Yehovah. And the same is true for us. Each one of us will have to be tested in a way to do something that seems like it's impossible. That is a necessary test for us. And anyone that I can think of has undergone something like this, where something will come up in their lives and to their normal faculties, their normal reasoning, that situation is impossible. They're not going to be able to do whatever it is. But then they've got his word, which tells them to do that thing. If you believe his word and you believe that nothing is impossible for Yehovah, then you will do whatever it is that's asked of you. The obvious example of this, which comes up so often in my experience, is the Sabbath day. Are you going to just shut down, stop working for the Sabbath day? You're going to go in and tell your boss that you can't work Saturdays anymore. A lot of people are required to work Saturdays. It's an integral part. Are you going to go in and explain that you can't do that? Maybe you've seen people ask for days off before and they've all been sacked. Whatever the situation is, there's going to be a situation where something is required of you and it seems like you cannot do it alone. So there's a component of it where Yehovah is required to be faithful to his word and do what he has said that he will do. And if you believe him, you believe that he will be with you in that situation. And even if you were to lose your job or whatever the outcome is, that Yehovah has it all in hand. That proves that you trust him. Because whether or not you believe his word is true, not irrelevant. But when it comes to you having faith in him, it's irrelevant if you don't believe it when it comes to that situation and it comes to that test. So that's what I want to look at in the first part. I think the first part's going to be quite long because I'm going to look at that concept all throughout Scripture, because it doesn't just affect you and your life, it also affects how you speak to other people and how you present Elohim to them. And then your lack of faith, your unbelief of his word, has these catastrophic knock-on effects in the people that you talk to. And you can change their response to his word as well. And this is where the idea of false prophets come from. We're going to see many examples in Scripture of people who don't believe his word, and so they pervert, or they halal, as we were looking at, the word commonly translated as profane, to kind of distort or twist Yahovah's word. They halal Yahovah to these other people. So we'll start in Numbers 13, verse 1, and we see that Yahovah spoke to Moshe. This is important. Okay, during the tent of meeting, Yahovah is speaking to Moshe, and he says, "Send men to spy out the land of Canaan." Now we're going to see later on that people actually came to Moshe and suggested it to him, and Moshe says, "It was good in my eyes." We'll see that from Deuteronomy later on. Seems to me that he went and asked Yahovah, spoke to him about that's kind of the relationship that Moshe and Yahovah had. And Yahovah said to him, "Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the children of Israel. Send one man from each tribe of their fathers, every one a Nasi among them." So we've seen these Nasi. Yahovah appointed the Nasi over thousands, but Yisrael appointed the Nasi of 50s, hundreds, the smaller numbers of people that were ruled by these Nasi. So these were the leaders, and as we're going to see next week, actually being a Nasi doesn't really mean anything. I mean, we're going to see it this week because 10 of these men are going to come back and they're going to disbelieve what Yahovah has said and then spread that among the people, and that has that knock-on effect among the people. But next week in Torah portion Korach, we're going to see that the 250 men that were with Korach, they were all men of renown. They were leaders among Israel. So all of these men are leaders, but they're not all in a good place. Not all of them believe Yahovah. Okay. In fact, 5/6 of them, or a great number of them, disbelieve Yahovah. We're going to see the same next week, and these things will keep cropping up. The point that we're actually at in Israel's history at the moment is quite an interesting one to me. I've learned this week a term which is apoapsis. And your apoapsis is the highest point of your trajectory. Okay, and the interesting thing to me about this apoapsis, which is the point really that Israel are at now, the highest point that they get to before they begin to descend. The interesting thing is, if you have momentum, you will continue moving towards the apoapsis of your trajectory, even if you are not still accelerating, even if you're not putting any force in. The force that's already behind you will carry you up to the height of your trajectory before you start to come down. So we've seen that these people have shown this lack of faith previously in Yahovah, but they've got so much momentum behind them. Yahovah has taken them out of Egypt by his signs and his wonders. They've got all that momentum behind them. So they're going to be continue to rise up to this highest point of their trajectory today, which is where they're about to enter into the land before they start to fall back down to earth. They're going to believe this report that comes back of the land. They're going to disbelieve Yahovah, and Yahovah is going to say to them, "Well, you guys aren't going to be the ones to go into the land apart from Joshua and Caleb, because they followed me wholly. You can follow Yahovah as Elohim, but not follow him wholly. You can believe that he is Elohim and follow him, and do some of the things that you can see to be good in Scripture, some of the actions that you can see that Yahovah considers to be righteous, but you don't wholly follow him because you don't actually believe him. When it comes to the crunch and it comes to, okay, what am I going to believe? My immediate faculties, my reasonings, the circumstances around me, or am I going to believe Yahovah? You don't actually believe him, so you don't wholly follow him, even if you mostly follow him, partially follow him. So verse 3 says, and by the command of Yahovah, Moshe sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all of the men who were heads of the children of Israel. And these were the people. From Reuven, there was Shammua, son of Zakur. From Shimon, there was Shaphat, son of Churi. From Yehudah, we've got Kalev. This is Caleb, son of Yafunah. So this is one of the two people of the original generation who left Egypt, who would actually enter into the promised land. Then we have from the tribe of Yisachar, Yigal, son of Yosef. From Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. So this is from the tribe of Joseph, specifically the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. So this is Joshua. We'll see his name changed to Joshua. So we've got Judah represented by Caleb, and we've got Ephraim represented by Joshua. So that's a representation of the two houses, which is interesting to me because they're the ones that enter into the promised land in the end, just as it will be for us in the end. The house of Judah and the house of Israel will enter into the promised land, but it will only be the ones who wholly follow Yahovah, the ones who actually believe him. Then from the tribe of Binyamin, we have Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Yosef, the other tribe within the tribe of Yosef, Yosef's other son, Manasseh, and that was Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gemali. From the tribe of Asher, Shethor, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nachbi, son of the person that I think has the best name in Scripture, son of Wapsi. From the tribe of Gad, Geuel, son of Machi. These are the names of the men whom Moshe sent to spy out the land, and Moshe called Hoshea salvation. That's what Hoshea means, the son of Nun. He called him Yehoshua, which means Yahovah is salvation. Now, later on in the scriptures, we're going to see his name recorded as Yeshua. Okay, the same name as Yeshua, of course, same name as the Mashiach. So his name changed from salvation to Yahovah is salvation to Yeshua, which means he will save. And that's how Yeshua's name in the New Testament is explained. It says they will call him Yeshua because he will save his people. So we've got salvation to Yahovah's salvation to the promise of the Messiah, which is he will save. Verse 17 says, and Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, go up here into the south, go up into the mountains and see what the land is like and the people who dwell in it, whether strong or weak, whether few or many. Okay, so we're going to see here these words which are used. And these words are used throughout Scripture to describe good and evil. Okay, people who are strong and courageous, the people who follow the word, the few or many. Okay, what do we want to be a part of? We don't want to be with the many on the broad path that leads to destruction. We want to be with the few on the narrow path which leads to life. Whether the land they dwell in is good or evil, whether the cities they inhabit are camps or strongholds. Okay, strongholds are seen as something bad. Camps is how Yisrael dwells in the camps. Whether the land is rich or poor, whether there are forests or not is the only one, in fact, which is not explicitly, as far as I see in Scripture, something which describes believers. But obviously, Yahovah likes forests. Forests are a good thing. Bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first fruits of grapes. So what we saw a couple of weeks ago, when they break camp and they're told, this is how the people are to leave, this is the order that they're to go in, and all of that sort of stuff. That was the second month of the second year since they left Egypt. This is the time of the first fruits of the grapes, which is around the 7th Chodesh. Okay, so we're talking about 5 Chodeshim since they were told those instructions of how to break camp. That's around about the time that we're talking about. It's around about the time of Sukkot, in fact. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Tzin as far as Rechav, near the entrance of Hamath. And they went up through the south and came to Hebron, and Achiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were there. That's important, significant, because the Anakim were Nephilim. Now Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Mitzrayim, and that would be significant to them because Zoan was described in the Psalms as being the place where Yahovah wrought his wonders, his signs and wonders, the fields of Zoan in Egypt. So Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Mitzrayim. And they came to the Wadi Eshkol and cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bore it between them on a pole, also of the pomegranates and of the figs. So all of these fruits that have been described as being in the land, there are giant fruit. Okay, the land is very good. The land is fertile, and it brings forth this fruit in abundance. That place was called the Wadi Eshkol because of the cluster which the men of Israel cut down from there. So the actual word Eshkol means cluster. So it's called cluster because of the cluster that Israel cut down from there. It was called Eshkol because of the Eshkol which the men of Israel cut down from there. And they returned from spying out the land after 40 days. Okay, so if they left round about the 7th Chodesh, we're talking about the 8th Chodesh is when they returned, the 8th Chodesh of the 12 in the year. And they returned about halfway through the 8th Chodesh. And they went and came to Moshe and Aharon and all the congregation of the children of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh, and they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they reported to him and said, we went to the land where you sent us, and truly it flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. So they say the land is good. They come back and they report that the land itself is good. But the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are walled, very great. And we saw the descendants of Anak there too. We saw these Nephilim there. So they say Yahovah was right, that the land is good. However, the people there are strong, as if that makes a difference. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, while the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the banks of the Jordan. So they went to discover how it is that they would enter into the land, and they give this report of the land, an evil report of the land, and they say the land's good, but the people who are there are strong, and they're everywhere. They were told in Exodus 23, 27 to 28 about these people, specifically these people that they mention here. I shall send my fear before you, and cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I shall send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivites and the Canaanites and the Hittites from before you. So what they had been told by Yahovah is, I'm going to cause confusion, send the hornets before you, and I'm going to drive all these people out. So they have been given an assurance about this. However, when this report comes back about how strong these people are, they begin to doubt what they've been told. And Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, let us go up at once and take possession, for we are certainly able to overcome it. So this is something that we're going to look at. You're going to have people who tell you an evil report of the things that Yahovah has said. They're going to tell you that basically you can't believe what Yahovah has said, because actually the situation when we've assessed it is that this is impossible or that's impossible. And then you're going to have people like Caleb and Yehoshua, Caleb and Joshua, who, when they saw the situation, they remembered what Yahovah has said, and they said, let us go immediately, because we can overcome whatever this is. Verse 31 says, but the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than he. Often translated as they are stronger than we, but the Hebrew word there is who. The Hebrew word who means he. The way that I remembered this, the way I was taught to remember it, was who is he and he is she. So the Hebrew word he means she, and the Hebrew word who means he. Could be translated as we, but when we remember what they're actually speaking about here, when Caleb says, come on, let's go and take possession of it, he can certainly overcome it, rather than we can certainly overcome it. He can certainly overcome it. The promise that they've actually been given, the response is, they are stronger than he. They're stronger than Yahovah, because the way Yahovah remembers what they're saying here is that they did not trust in him. And they gave the children of Israel an evil report of the land which they'd spied out. So remember, they said the land was good, but they gave an evil report of the land, saying, the land through which we have gone as spies is a land eating up its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. Recorded in Deuteronomy that they came back and said that the land is good, but they gave an evil report. Verse 33 says, and we saw the Nephilim there, the sons of Anak, of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. Then all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and against Aharon, and all the congregation said to them, if only we had died in the land of Mitzrayim, or if only we had died in this wilderness. And why is Yahovah bringing us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should become a prey? Would it not be better for us to turn back to Mitzrayim? And this is what people do in these situations, in the lives of people who have come since then. The word of Elohim is a pattern which repeats throughout history. Everything is founded on the word of Elohim, and it describes human behavior, and this is how people respond today. You might not want to go back to Egypt, but they say, would it not be better for us to break the Shabbat, to leave Yahovah's ways? Has Yahovah brought us out, given us salvation, cleansed us of our sins, just to kill us by us not having any food? Maybe people need to work on the Shabbat, or when I say need to, they imagine that they need to work on the Shabbat to provide for their family. So they say, would it not be better for us to break the Shabbat? Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt in that way, go back to our previous ways, than to follow after Yahovah? Has Yahovah brought us to this land, to this place in our walk, to have us killed or to have something bad happen to us? This is the response that we are actually having when we disbelieve something that he has asked us to do. We say, would it not be better for us to do this instead? Yehovah's explained what is good for us to do. He's explained that he is with us. We believe that he is God, but do we trust him? Do we trust that we can do his word and that he will bless us, that we will be in a good position for doing his word? Or do we think, well, the way that the world works is actually different? And yeah, Yehovah can say all of that, his word can say all of that, and that's very nice and everything, but that's not actually how things work in the real world. Deuteronomy 9:23 says, and when Yehovah sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the mouth of Yehovah your Elohim, and you neither trusted him nor shemad his voice. Okay, and so we are in a position where we have this choice before us. Okay, are we going to rebel against his mouth, which speaks his word? Are we going to trust him? And are we going to shema to what he says? We all have the word of Elohim. And the word of Elohim for each one of us will give us a different challenge. Each one of us will face a situation or multiple situations throughout our lives when we see something in the world and we see the way that the world usually works, and we see what the word says to do in that circumstance, and we think, if I do this and things follow the usual course of events, something bad is going to happen. Exactly the same situation that these people were in. And the response will be exactly the same from Yehovah. We're saved by grace through faith. And we've kind of come up with a weird explanation for what faith is, that it's believing that Elohim exists even. We live in a world which doubts that Elohim exists. Some people do, so it seems much more significant to us that people actually believe that he exists. But that's not what that faith is. That word really means belief. Okay, we're saved by belief. Abraham was saved by his belief. He believed Yehovah when he said, I'm going to do this impossible thing. You're going to have a child, and through that child there's going to be a nation that comes about. When Abraham was advanced in years, but Abraham believed him. He believed that Yehovah was going to do the impossible. That is the belief that is required. So the response from Yehovah will be the same. If we are confronted with a situation where we think, I can't do that, and you'd be right, you can't do that, but you don't believe that Yehovah is going to be with you in that situation, and he's going to work it out for you, then you will not enter into the promised land, because you do not have the faith that the scriptures describe. So how one responds to the word is what determines whether or not you believe Yehovah. And that, as I mentioned before, affects what we tell other people. Many people want to hide from the word. Many people believe that Elohim's word is true, so they actually become terrified of it. And if you are to go to them and present them with what the word actually says, people get angry. People act as if they're scared of the word. Many people want to hide from it. They want to avoid it. And what this actually does is it makes it necessary for them that they, in inverted commas, understand it differently. Or when they receive it, they distort it, they halal it in their minds. And the word tells us that people do this. 2 Timothy 4:2-4 says, proclaim the word, be urgent, in season, out of season, reprove, warn, appeal, with all patience and teaching. For there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teaching, but according to their own desires, they shall heap up for themselves teachers tickling the ear. We do not like what the word says. So what is necessary for us now is that we interpret it in a way which allows us to understand it differently. So people will fixate on snippets of the word, like Yehovah is love, and then they'll define what love is. So they'll say, well, keeping Shabbat would mean that I would lose my job. They'll just make that determination. That's what would usually happen. I don't trust Yehovah, so it would cause me to lose my job. I use Shabbat as an example, but you can think in your own life of the things either that you have overcome in the past, or that things that are issues right now that you are thinking, well, that's too difficult for me to do. So people distort Yehovah's word. They'll look for people who will give them an interpretation which accommodates them where they are. Verse 3 says, they shall indeed turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to myths. 2 Peter 3:14-17 tells us that people do this twisting as well. It says, so then, beloved ones, looking forward to this, do your utmost to be found by him in peace, spotless and blameless, and reckon the patience of our Master as deliverance or salvation, it's often translated, as also our beloved brother Shaul, Paul, wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him. So Paul wrote a lot about how we are saved by grace through faith. Okay, that it was this characteristic of Yehovah's, his kindness, his compassion, his patience, which was salvation, that if we turn to him and repented, he will give us grace. So what people do is they say, well, Paul says you can't be saved by works of the Torah. Therefore, we won't do any of the Torah. Whereas Paul's describing what I'm describing today. You can believe that Yehovah is Elohim. You can do things that are in the Torah by works. But unless you believe him, then it doesn't profit you anything as regards your salvation. So Peter's saying here, look, this is what Paul says, to reckon the patience of our Master as deliverance. So also in all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. So they twist Paul's words. Okay, when Paul says something very simple, like you're not saved by doing works of the Torah, they twist that to mean, well, we won't do any of the Torah then, rather than we will do the Torah by faith, which is what Paul actually says to do. Paul says, do we nullify the Torah by this faith? God forbid we establish the Torah by our faith. But they twist Paul's words because they're looking for an out. They don't like what the word says. They look at the Torah and they don't want to do it. They don't want to submit those areas of their life. They don't want to stop working on the Shabbat. They don't want to wear tzitzit. People don't want to become circumcised as Abraham did as the father of circumcision. People don't want to tithe their material goods. They don't want to give their first fruits, their firstborn to Yehovah. Whatever it is, people don't want to do it. So they're looking for an out. And when they read Paul, who says you're not saved by doing those things, they imagine to themselves that they will be fine to not do them because they didn't like them anyway. It's the same with the people who gather to themselves teachers having itching ears. They look for somebody who will tell them something which will give them an out, something behind which they can hide to shield them from the word. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led astray with the delusion of the lawless. So scripture tells us this is how people respond to the word. People will want to twist it. They'll want to halal it. They'll want to distort it, and they'll want to look for people who will teach them these things, that is how it is so. It also necessitates that their worship is acceptable. Okay, whatever way they want to worship Yahovah, they take a snippet of the word, Yahovah wants to be worshipped, then they come up with their own way of worshipping him. So they put the two of them together, they conflate those two ideas and say, well, Yahovah wants to be worshipped. I'm worshipping him like this. Ergo, I am doing what Yahovah asked, even though other parts of the word will tell them exactly how he wants to be worshipped. You'll get this response if you tell people that they shouldn't be doing pagan feasts to worship Yahovah, that Christmas and Easter are of pagan origin. Okay, you've been doing it ignorantly so far, but Yahovah's word says not to do this. People will twist that and they'll say, no, Elohim is love, and he just wants things. He just wants people to worship him. He wants people to love him and to be close to him, all of which are true and which we find in the word, but they distort the rest of the word to fall in line with their interpretation or their understanding of those things that they actively look for. They seek out people who will teach those things, and they will twist Paul's words as they twist the other scriptures in line with this idea that they've got. The way that they understand the word, the way that they hear the word, then becomes how they present him to other people. And this is what is particularly damaging. This is what we see the 10 spies who brought the evil report doing in this Torah portion. They then present Yahovah to people in a way where they doubt that Yahovah can do it. They say, no, the people in the land are stronger than Yahovah is. Okay, we can't do going into the land. Yahovah's told us to, he's told us he'll be with us, but those people are stronger than Yahovah. And if we are lax in our obedience, the way that we present Yahovah to other people is as being tolerant of disobedience. Because obviously, to our minds, Yahovah must accommodate us somewhere in his plan of salvation. So if we're lax in our obedience, then Yahovah must be tolerant of disobedience in some kind of way. So let's find people who will teach that he's tolerant of disobedience. Yahovah is all about love. He's about relationship with him, and that's all you have to worry about. Do you love him in your heart? Not whether you believe him. You do believe him. You believe he exists. And look, you've changed your life. You've done this, that, and the other. He will be tolerant of how you want to approach him, because he's just glad that you're approaching him. So this is the perspective of the false prophet. This is how the false prophet or the false teacher represents Yahovah to people. He gives them a way to be comfortable with not doing the parts of the word, not believing the parts of the word, which they're going to find it difficult to do. It's difficult for anybody to take up arms and go to fight against giant men who any common sense would tell you are just going to destroy you. There's no way that you can defeat an enemy like that. So people who are afraid of these things want other people to tell them, maybe it would be better if we did it like this. Maybe it'd be better if we went back to Egypt. We'll still worship Yahovah. We'll go back and we'll do it in Egypt, and we'll witness to the Egyptians, and they'll see what following Yahovah is. Maybe that's what Yahovah wants us to do, actually. We'll go back there, we'll tell them all about Yahovah, then they can all turn to Yahovah as well. That sounds good. Take little bits of the word, they arrange them in a way which is pleasing to them, in a way which makes Yahovah tolerant of disobedience, and then they'll promote Yahovah's tolerance of disobedience as a good thing, as being loving or they'll look to elements of his character, his kindness, his patience, his compassion, and they'll focus on those elements, and they'll make it so that those elements actually equate to tolerating disobedience. Because it doesn't matter how kind you are or how patient you are. If somebody doesn't believe you, they're never going to come to a point where they believe you if you're infinitely patient with them. So you'll get people who will make following Elohim about all sorts of things. Is God actually about how many, in inverted commas, souls you can win in campaigns to spread, in inverted commas, the gospel? Because if you go and tell people about an Elohim who is not Elohim, or you tell people about only partial characteristics, you only tell them some of his name, you haven't won anyone's soul. If to you it's all about the number of people that you can bring to Jesus, going and telling them snippets in order for them to be convinced by what you have said doesn't profit them anything at all. But perhaps that's what your God is about, because that's the part of the word that you're focused on, that we're to be a light to the Gentiles, and that through seeing our light they are to come to Yahuwah. You can take just that part of the word and then you can spin that out into an entire understanding of Yahuwah, and you can just ignore the parts of scripture that you don't want to believe yourself, because then you don't present those parts to other people. You don't present that he wants you to repent and become righteous and all of the other things that come along with following Yahuwah. You don't believe that within yourself, and you make allowances within yourself. You say it's all about grace or whatever. So when you tell other people, that's who they appreciate Elohim to be as well. Okay, excuse me. Is your God more about rituals, doing rituals? We see in the word that Elohim likes to be approached by people in a very specific way. He lays out that method of approach. But if you just take that from the word and say, well, Yahuwah likes the lighting of candles, he likes the menorah to be lit, he likes things to be done in a very particular way. So we've got our rituals and our way of approaching him, and he likes all of that sort of stuff, so he's going to like the way that we want to approach him. Or we see in the scriptures that people have to be kadashed, they have to be set apart, hagiatzod, they have to be sanctified in order to come into his presence. So we'll do rituals and we will become holy, so to speak. That's what people who follow these religious practices seem to do. They want to become holy. They'll live their lives however they live their lives, but then when they go to church, they'll become holy and they'll put on the garments that they're to wear, and they'll put on holy face, and they'll start taking it really seriously, and they'll have the bread and the wine, and they'll ritualize all of that, and they'll become holy, and they'll do rituals, which you can see in the scriptures is something that Yahuwah asks of his people in a very particular way. But these people take it and they spin it out into something else, and they ignore all of the rest of Yahuwah's character and what he actually asks. They even ignore what he asks of them in those particular things which they choose to do. Many teachers will present Yahuwah in a way that they see as more loving. This guy, if you know who he is, he teaches people to look at Jesus, not yourself. He sees it as more loving for Yahuwah in judgment to look at Yeshua and see Yeshua as righteous, rather than looking at the people to see where they're at. That's not actually loving to those people. What's loving to the people is that Yahuwah has given them a way in which they can walk which is good for them, and it is good for their souls. It's good for them as people. This guy thinks that it's more loving if instead of Yahovah looking at him, Yahovah looks at Jesus. Because if Yahovah looked at him, he would find all sorts of things that were bad. So rather than changing those bad things, he sees it as more loving for Yahovah to overlook those bad things and look to all the good things that Yeshua did. He sees that as more loving. So when he thinks Yahovah is love, that's how he presents Yahovah being loving. Okay, no. Don't worry about all the areas of sin in your life. God loves you. He just wants a relationship with you. When it comes to it, those areas, because you've believed in him and you've turned to him and you've started believing the Bible is the word of God, he's just going to overlook those things because that's who he is. He's so good in that way. God is good all the time. And all those throwaway statements that are true but misrepresent the truth that is contained within them. Jude 3-4 says, Beloved ones, making all haste to write to you concerning our common deliverance or common salvation. I felt the necessity to write to you, urging you to earnestly contend for the belief which was once for all delivered to the set apart ones. For certain men have slipped in, whose judgment was written about long ago, wicked ones perverting or halaling the favor of our Elohim for indecency and denying the only Master Yahovah and our Master Yeshua, Messiah. So we're told that people will come in who have perverted, they've twisted these things. We've seen that people twist these things to accommodate themselves. These people pervert the favor of our Elohim or the grace of our Elohim. That word's translated as grace commonly. And they actually end up denying Yahovah and denying Yeshua Messiah, who is the Word. They've come in and they've told people, don't worry about sin. This is where we get the hyper grace gospel from, that it's all actually about grace. And it's through ignoring our sins that we actually come to love Elohim more, so that we actually end up walking in righteousness, which is a complete twisting of the word. It might sound good in theory that at the end of all of this, we come to walking in righteousness because we've got his spirit, and we can no longer walk in sin, but it removes the essential part of the word, which is the fact that we must all take responsibility for our own actions. It excuses those actions and puts that change out to a future point. It's a bit like the idea of karma. Might sound good to people that eventually you'll get round to being righteous through karma working itself out, and 5 million lives in the future you'll come to this one true righteous being. It's a seductive lie, as is the idea that through tolerating all of your sin you will eventually come to walk in righteousness. The reason for this, the reason that people have these ideas in their heads, the reason that people teach these things, is because each one of us is focused on ourselves. Each one is everything that they have experienced, all of their perception, everything in the world that they've ever experienced is through the lens of their own eyes. That's all that they know. So when they say that Yahovah is love, that love must incorporate them. And if they're disobedient, therefore it must incorporate their disobedience in some way, because they cannot conceive of how, to them, the world is all about them. Everything they've ever experienced, everything they know is all about them. So the idea that Yahovah, being love, doesn't incorporate them in some way is just something that they can't reckon with. Whereas they are not all of the world. There's billions of people in the world, billions of people who have existed in history, and Yahovah governs over all of those people. But because we appreciate and understand and perceive the world from only our perspective, when it comes to actually coming to grips with the fact that one day we might be destroyed because of our disobedience, it's just something that a lot of people cannot reckon with. We know that the word is supposed to be a mirror. Okay, we're supposed to look at our natural face. As James says, he says, become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. This is what people do. They twist the word. They find people who will twist the word for them and will teach them a twisted version of the word, and they'll deceive themselves thereby. James talks about a particular sort of this deceit, though. He says, become doers of the word and not hearers only. Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks at his natural face in the mirror, for he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forgets what he was like. So these people are deceiving themselves because they read the word, they see how they actually are, and what they should be like, and then they go away and forget what they look like. A lot of people will deceive themselves like that, but because they've deceived themselves like that, what they actually end up doing with the word, with the mirror, is distorting it, so that what the word actually becomes to them is a distorted mirror which shows a reflection which is not true. Okay, so the first point, they come to the word, they hear what the word's got to say, they don't like that. That cannot be so, because they are the center of their own worlds. So it cannot be that Yahovah is displeased with them and will ultimately destroy them. So they distort the mirror. They halal Yahovah's word so that the reflection that it shows them is actually a different reflection. Remembering there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teaching, but according to their own desires, according to their sinful desires, they shall heap up for themselves teachers tickling the ear, people who will distort that mirror for them and show them a reflection which is not true. 1 Kings 12:26 to 33 is the beginning of us looking at these people and how our own unbelief can affect how we tell other people about Yahovah and can actually impact other people's lives and their worship of Yahovah. Just like the false teachers who believe whatever they teach to other people, they believe that themselves. They've got their unbelief, they've come up with a way to accommodate their unbelief in what they believe. They teach that to other people who are looking for people to distort the word to them, and so all the people end up going astray. We see this with Yerovam. Okay, Yerovam, you might have heard of him as Jeroboam. He said in his heart, now the kingdom shall return to the house of David. So Jeroboam was the king of Israel. When Israel split with Judah, Jeroboam was the king of Israel, and Rehoboam was the king of Judah. Jeroboam at this point says the kingdom's going to return to the house of David. If these people go up to do sacrifices in the house of Yahovah at Yerushalayim, then the heart of this people shall turn back to their master, Rehoboam, king of Yehudah, and they shall slay me and go back to Rehoboam, king of Yehudah. So he was in this same situation. He was faced with something which would seem impossible to him. The usual course of events that he could expect is if all these people were going up to Judah to do the sacrifices those 3 times a year, that their hearts would end up turning back to Rehoboam. That's how he perceived the world to be. That's what he expected would happen. He did not believe Yahovah, that the people should be doing his word, and that if he did righteousness, Yahovah would be with him. That Yahovah would be with good rulers and all of those sorts of things. He didn't believe those things. What he believed is what he saw with his eyes, like the 10 spies, like the examples that we've looked at. So he is afraid that these people are going to kill him. So the king took counsel, and he made 2 calves of gold and said to the people, "It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. See your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim." So he says, he's got his unbelief. He thinks the people are going to kill him if they go up to Jerusalem. So that affects what he says to other people. And he says to them, look, this is too much for you to be doing to go up to Jerusalem. You don't need to do the Torah like it's said. Yahovah wants you to worship the Elohim which brought you up out of the land of Mitzrayim. Well, I've just made 2 calves of gold for you. These are the Elohim which brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim. You can still do what Yahovah is asking you to do. We'll just do it somewhere else. So he set up one in Beit El and the other he put in Dan. And this matter became a sin for the people who went before the one as far as Dan. And he made the house of the high places and the priests from all sorts of people who were not the sons of Levi. Okay, so you've got to be a son of Aharon to be a priest. Well, that sounds like it's going to be a bit of a problem. Maybe those people aren't going to come and be priests in these high places. So I'll tell you what, we'll just make the priests out of anyone. Yahovah wants his people to be priests. It's all about worshipping him. So surely this is not a problem. No, we won't go up to Jerusalem. You know what? Things will go bad if we go to Jerusalem. Make the priests, have the high places within Israel, within our own kingdom. Do you not think Yahovah wants us to have places to worship him within our own kingdom? Do you think he wants us to go up to Judah where that's going to cause problems? No, Yahovah's love. It's going to be bad if we do that. Let's do it this way. And Yerovam performed the festival on the 15th day of the 8th Chodesh, like the festival that was in Yehudah. Okay, so the festival that was on the 15th day of the 7th Chodesh, that's Sukkot, he performed the festival that was a Chodesh later. Oh, it's okay. We'll still do the festival. We're just going to do it a Chodesh later. Much like people who say things like, oh, I'm still going to do Sukkot. I'm just going to do it for 3 days over the weekend. I know, everyone, come round to mine. We'll camp for 3 days, and then we'll call that Sukkot. That's going to be good, isn't it? All Yehovah's really interested in is that you do Sukkot and that you remember his feast. And he offered on the altar. So he did a Beit El, sacrifice of the calves that he's made. And at Beit El, he appointed the priests to the high places which he had made. And he made offerings on the altar which he had made at Beit El on the 15th day of the 8th Chodesh, in the Chodesh which he had devised in his own heart. So you see how Jeroboam's unbelief, disbelief of Yahovah's word, has not only affected him, it's affected all of the people that he has come to with these seductive lies. Oh no, we'll do it on this day. We'll do it within our own kingdom. Everything will be great. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 12 says, "For we do not presume to count ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves." Okay, we count ourselves and compare ourselves with those who are commended by Yahovah. But they, measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. If you set the bar really low, then you're going to succeed every time. If instead of doing what Yahovah has said, which in the case of Jeroboam is go up to Jerusalem 3 times a year, perform the sacrifices there. Okay, that it was a high bar for him, because if he had allowed people to do that, what he thought is that he was going to end up dead. So that's a very high bar for him to him in his own mind, he would be putting himself in the hands of Yahovah and depending on him for his very life. And if Yahovah wasn't there, then he would have died. What he decided to do instead of that is to set the bar low, to set the bar somewhere where he knew that he could reach. These people do the same thing. People today who are following the pattern of the word that we see in the sin of the spies, in Jeroboam as an example, they do the same things, and they measure themselves by themselves, and they compare themselves among themselves. So they look at other people who are doing the same thing, other people who have decided, oh, you know what, it's probably quite difficult to do the word. Why don't we just do this instead? That'll be okay. Yahweh's love, after all, that's our foundation point. He's merciful and he's patient. So if he's merciful and he's patient, if I find it difficult to do these things, then he's going to be merciful towards me. He's going to be compassionate towards me. He's going to accommodate me and therefore my disobedience, because that's just who he is. He's loving and he's compassionate and he's patient. We'll just forget the part of his name that says that he will by no means forgive iniquity. Let's not concentrate on that for now. We'll just concentrate on the bits that we like. And then you go and you find teachers who will teach you the same thing, and you compare yourself by their teaching or by the other people who follow whatever seductive doctrine it is that you've decided to follow rather than to believe Yahovah and what he said. In 2 Kings 18, 17 to 32, it says, the king of Ashur, that's Assyria, sent the Tartan and the Rabsaris and the Rabshakeh from Lachish with a great army against Jerusalem to King Chizkiyahu. The king of Assyria sends his army against Jerusalem, King Hezekiah. And they went up and came to Jerusalem, and when they had come up, they came and stood by the channel of the upper pool, which was on the highway to the launderer's field. And they called to the king, and Eliakim, son of Hilkiyahu, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joach, son of Yosaph the recorder, or son of Asaph rather, the recorder, came out to them. And the Rav Shekeh said to them, please say to Chizkiyahu, thus said the great king, the king of Ashur, what is this trust in which you have trusted? You have spoken of having counsel and strength for battle, but they are only words of the lips. And in whom do you trust that you rebel against me? Now look, you've put your trust in the staff of the crushed reed Mitzrayim. You put their trust in Egypt to be their defense, on which if a man leans, it shall go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, to all who trust in him. If you trust in Pharaoh, you're going to end up in a bad way. But when you say to me, we trust in Yahovah our Elohim, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Chizkiyahu was taken away, and said to Yehudah and Jerusalem, bow yourselves before this altar in Jerusalem? So he misunderstands things. This is the king of Assyria. He's not somebody who believes that Yahovah is Elohim, but he looks at the situation from his outside perspective, and he says, look, you've even taken away the high places by which people were worshipping Yahovah. How could you even say that you're going to trust in Yahovah? Now I urge you, give a pledge to my master, the king of Ashur. Then I give you 2,000 horses, if you're able to put riders on them. And how do you turn back the face of one commander of the least of my master's servants, and trust in Mitzrayim for horses and chariots? Have I now come up without Yahovah to this place to destroy it? Yahovah said to me, go up against this land, and you shall destroy it. Okay, so here we see this person who does not believe in Yahovah as Elohim. We see him acting as the false prophets did. The false prophets would speak of Yahovah when Yahovah had not spoken. But he's speaking to Israel and he's saying, look, Yahovah has actually spoken to me, and he said, go up against this land and you shall destroy it. We know that from time to time Yahovah did speak to pagan kings. Verse 26 says, Then said Eliakim, son of Hilkiyahu, and Shebna and Yoach to the Rav Shekeh, Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it, and do not speak to us in the language of Yehudah in the ears of the people on the wall. So this is somebody who does not believe Yehovah is Elohim. They're saying, please don't speak these words in the hearing of the people of Yehudah, because when somebody who does not believe Yehovah and his promises speaks, it has an effect on people who do believe that Yehovah is Elohim and can cause them to not believe the word which is spoken. The Rav Shekeh said to them, Has my master sent me to your master and to speak to you, and to you rather, to speak these words, and not to the men sitting on the wall to eat their own dung and drink their own urine with you? That's why we've come. Of course, we're going to speak to these people who are in this terrible situation. The Rav Shekeh stood and called out with a loud voice in the language of Yehudah, and spoke and said, so now he's speaking to all these people who do believe Yehovah is Elohim. And he says, Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus said the king, Do not let Chizkiyahu deceive you, for he is unable to deliver you out of his hand. And this is particularly relevant for people who perhaps have unbelieving spouses, who, when they're in a situation where they say, well, this is what Yehovah says to do in his word, the person who doesn't believe that Yehovah is Elohim at all will say, no, don't listen to that person who's telling you to follow the word in this way. Don't let them deceive you. Do not let Chizkiyahu make you trust in Yehovah, saying, Yehovah shall certainly deliver us in this city. He's not given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Because if you're in a situation where you're married to somebody who doesn't believe the word, their unbelief is greatly magnified. Their actual belief of Yehovah and whether they trust in Yehovah. They don't even believe he's Elohim. So they're certainly not going to trust in him in a situation which is going to be difficult to their imagination. A situation that you might be imagining is going to be difficult and is going to require you to put faith in Yehovah. Okay, it's going to be greatly magnified for somebody who doesn't believe that Yehovah is Elohim. It doesn't have to be a spouse, it could be a friend or anyone who, when you are put in a position where your faith is going to be tested, when you speak to other people about whether or not you should do that, or you bring that thing up with them, they're going to say, no, don't be deceived. Don't think, Yehovah is going to do this. How could Yehovah do this? Have you considered this? Have you considered that? It's impossible. The situation cannot be rectified. You can't go in and tell Clive that you're not going to work on the Sabbath. He'll fire you. Don't you remember when he fired Jody when she went in? People will put those doubts in your minds. This is an unbeliever. This is also done by people who are teachers, by fellow believers. If you speak to a fellow believer, they can do this very same thing to you, and you can do this to other people as well. Your belief, your unbelief is going to be magnified when you speak to other people. If you don't believe that Yehovah is able to do the impossible and that you should follow his word no matter what, then you have no business counseling other people on their own walks with Yehovah. Do not listen to Chizkiyahu, for thus said the king of Ashur, Make peace with me by a present, and come out to me, and let each of you eat from his own vine, and each from his own fig tree, and each of you drink the waters of his own cistern. Until I come, then I shall take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, and live and not die. But do not listen to Chizkiyahu when he misleads you and says, Yehovah shall deliver us. So the promise is, if you disobey the word, it will be good for you. People will suggest to you that not doing the word will be better for you than doing it. And the flip side of that, obviously, if you do the word in some way, that will end up being bad for you. In Jeremiah 23, 16 to 30, we hear about people who do this sort of thing. If you disobey Yahovah, then it will be good. You'll be able to eat your own food and drink your own water. You won't be in a bad situation. Jeremiah 23 says, "Thus says Yahovah Sebaot, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They lead you astray. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yahovah." This is the same for anybody who is counseling anybody about whether or not they should follow the word in a particular matter. It's true for us if we counsel someone else. They keep on saying to those who despise me, Yahovah has said you shall have peace. And to all who walk according to the stubbornness of their own heart, they say no evil comes upon you. Okay, so this is a situation. Yahovah wants you to do this. This is going to create what you imagine to be an impossible situation. You've decided not to do that thing. You've decided to go after your own heart and your own reasonings and reckonings. So they say to those people, no evil is going to come upon you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry that the word says that this is going to have disastrous consequences. No evil comes upon you. In fact, what you've decided to do, that sounds like a wise decision to me. For who has stood in the counsel of Yahovah and has seen and heard his word? Who has listened to his word and obeyed it? Very few people. See, a storm of Yahovah shall go forth in a rage, a whirling storm. It whirls on the head of the wrong. The displeasure of Yahovah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. Okay, so you can either tell people disobedience to the word is going to actually, in the long run, be better for you. Don't worry about it. Yahovah will forgive you. You will have a chance in the future to turn back to Yahovah. But this thing is an impossible thing. No one would expect you to do it. The people who tell you that. Then you've got the people who tell you the more difficult thing to hear. The displeasure of Yahovah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. If you don't believe him, then it's going to be bad for you. I did not send these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would not have let my people. Then they would have let my people hear my words, and they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. So these people are walking in a way which seems to be good to them. It seems to avoid something impossible that they want to avoid. But what they've actually done is not let the people hear his words. Sometimes speaking his words to people in that position is going to be very, very difficult because they don't want to hear them. And you're asking them to essentially do what is impossible to them and to trust in Yahovah. That's how Yahovah would have us approach the situation though. Am I an Elohim close by, declares Yahovah, not an Elohim afar off? If anyone is hidden in secret places, would I not see him, declares Yahovah? Do I not fill the heavens and the earth, declares Yahovah? I have heard what the prophets have said who prophesy falsehood in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. Till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and the prophets of the deceit of their own heart? So the prophets do very much what the Rav Shekeh was doing when he said, Yahovah has spoken to me, and he said, you go up and destroy the land, or whatever. He's given a word from Yahovah which promotes disobedience rather than obedience. Who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. To the false prophets, they're probably thinking, oh, no, I'm trying to remind people of his name. I'm trying to remind people that he's patient, he's compassionate, and he's loving, and all of these characteristics of his name. Yahovah sees it differently, though. Yahovah knows that his name does not just incorporate his patience towards them, the fact that he'll give grace to them if they turn and do what is right. But his name also incorporates that he will punish iniquity when it is present in people. The prophet who has a dream, let him relate the dream. And he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. You can speak his word, but not speak it in truth. What is the chaff to the wheat, declares Yahovah? Is not my word like a fire, declares Yahovah, and a hammer that shatters a rock? Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahovah, who steal my words, every one from his neighbor. This is how Yahovah sees when we do these things. Okay, if we're in a situation, somebody is faced with something in their life which seems impossible. They've got to go into the land and face the giants, or whatever situation it is. They've got to go into their boss and tell them, I can't work on Shabbat. I can't work on the high Sabbaths. This is just the way that it is. I'm prepared to lose my job if necessary. In that situation, we are to counsel that person according to his word by not telling them what the word says to actually do. Yahovah sees it as us stealing his words from those people, because the word is given to us to bring life. Telling them those words is the most loving thing that you can do, because that brings life to them. Telling them a falsehood steals his words from them. John 10:10 says, the thief does not come except to steal and to slaughter and to destroy. I have come that they might possess life, and that they might possess it beyond measure. That's what his word brings to people. Eternal life. The thief comes to steal, to slaughter, and to destroy. Okay? And if you steal his words from people, you counsel them wrong. You tell them, as the false prophets did, it would be better for you to not be obedient. It will yield blessings for you if you do different things. Would it not be better if we went back to Mitzrayim? Then you are stealing his words, which will ultimately lead to them being destroyed. 2 Peter 2:12-19 says, but these, like natural, unreasoning beasts, have been born to be caught and destroyed. Blaspheme that which they do not know, shall be destroyed in their destruction. Being about to receive the wages of unrighteousness, deeming indulgence in the day of pleasure, spots and blemishes, reveling in their own deceptions while they feast with you, having eyes filled with an adulteress, and unable to cease from sin, enticing souls, having a heart trained in greed, children of a curse. It's what people who do not believe do. They entice others into their unbelief. Having left the right way, they went astray. Having followed the way of Balaam, son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. But he was rebuked for his transgression. A dumb donkey, speaking with the voice of a man, restrained the madness of the prophet. This is the voice that we are to be. Okay, we are to restrain the madness of these people, the delusion of the lawless, as Peter put it in the next chapter when he's talking about Paul. These are fountains without water, clouds driven by a storm, to whom the blackest of darkness is kept forever. For speaking arrogant nonsense, they entice, through the lusts of the flesh, indecencies, the ones who have escaped from those living in delusion. So they will speak this arrogant nonsense against Yahovah, that it will be well with you if you don't follow his word, if you don't believe it. And they entice people who have escaped from those living in delusion, those who have come to a knowledge of the word. They entice them back with their arrogant nonsense, with their, oh, it's okay, you don't have to believe the word, with their little seductive, Yahovah is love, and he's merciful, he's kind, he's patient, he's going to be there for you, he just wants relationship with you. All of that arrogant garbage that they speak, they entice back other people who believe in Yahovah, entice them to their unbelief, promising them freedom, though themselves being slaves of corruption, for one is a slave to whatever overcomes him. 2 Kings 19, 8-23. Back to the situation in Jerusalem with King Chizkiyahu. And the Rav Shekeh returned and found the king of Ashur fighting against Libnah, for he had heard that he had left Lachish. So he returns home, he finds the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah. And he heard concerning Tirachah, king of Cush, he has come out to fight with you. And when he heard it, he sent messengers to Chizkiyahu, saying, speak to Chizkiyahu, the king of Yehudah, saying, do not let your Elohim, in whom you trusted, deceive you. And that might not be what's in your head when you're speaking to people and you're counseling them that, well, maybe that's too hard for you. Maybe it'll be okay if you don't do that. Yehovah wouldn't expect you to put yourself in that position, whatever other lies. What you are essentially saying to them is, don't let the word of Elohim deceive you, saying Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Ashur, or saying, even if you lose your job, it's going to be okay because I am your power to get wealth. I am going to be there with you. If you draw close to me, I'll draw close to you. Don't be deceived by that. See, you have heard what the kings of Ashur have done to all the lands by putting them under the ban. And are you going to be delivered? You've seen what's happened to all these other people. Have the gods of the nations delivered those whom my father have destroyed? Gozan and Haran and Retseph, and the sons of Aden who were in Telassar. All these people, they had gods that they trusted in as well. Did they deliver them? No. Where is the king of Hamath and the king of Arphat and the king of the city of Sephavayim, Hena and Eva? And Chizkiyahu received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Chizkiyahu went up to the house of Yehovah and spread it before Yehovah. And Chizkiyahu prayed to Yehovah, saying, O Yehovah, Sevaot, Elohim of Yisrael, the one who dwells in the land, between the cherubim. You are Elohim, you alone of all the kingdoms of the earth. You made the heavens and the earth. Incline your ear, O Yehovah, and hear. Open your ears, O Yehovah, and see. And hear all the words of Sencheriv, who is sent to reproach the living Elohim. And this is what we can do when we're in this situation. Okay, we don't have a temple that we can go into, but we can pray to Yehovah, and we can bring these matters before him, and we can say, we can admit to him that we're fearful in that situation, but that he is Elohim. We can say that these people are coming and they're telling me to doubt you, or in my mind I see this situation as impossible, and we can seek him in the same way. We find out in the book of Isaiah in chapter 36 that he goes to Isaiah, and Isaiah brings the word of Yehovah to him. But we can go to Yehovah, we can pray to him, and we can go to his word and receive assurances about all of these things. And if we believe Yehovah, when we read in his word that these things happen to other people, and that we're to trust in him, and that when we are fearful, when fear rises up in our hearts, we are to fear not because he is with us. If we believe him, then we trust in those things. So we can approach Yehovah in the same way. Truly Yehovah, the kings of Ashur, have laid waste all the lands in their land, and have put their gods into the fire. For they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone, and they destroyed them. And now, O Yehovah, our Elohim, save us from his hand, so that all the kingdoms of the earth know that you are Yehovah, you alone. Yehovah meaning he who was, who is, and is to come. So that all the kingdoms of the earth know that you are he who was, is, and is to come. You alone. Then Yeshayahu, son of Amot, sent to Chizkiyahu, saying, Thus said Yehovah, Elohim of Yisrael, because you have prayed to me against Sencheriv, king of Ashur. This is the word which Yehovah has spoken concerning him. The maiden, the daughter of Sion, has despised you, mocked you, The daughter of Yerushalayim has shaken her head behind you. Whom have you reproached and reviled? And against whom have you raised your voice and lifted up your eyes in pride? Against the set apart one of Israel. And we can go to his word, which we have written down and recorded for us, and we can find similar assurances. So the people in our Torah portion today, they have people coming to them with the same sort of lies. And what's their reaction? They said to each other, let us appoint a leader and let us turn back to Mitzrayim. And the people, they probably thought along the same lines as the people that we've been considering. We'll go back to Mitzrayim. We'll appoint a leader who's not going to lead us to death, because if we go into the land, we're just going to get smashed by the giants. Okay, so we'll still be Yehovah's people because he's brought us out of Egypt, and most people will go back to Egypt. We'll live in Egypt. We'll tell the Egyptians all about Yehovah. It'll be great. We'll do all of the things that he asks of us. We'll just do it in a place where we're not going to get killed. Surely Yehovah doesn't want us to get killed. If we get killed, we can't be his people. That doesn't make any sense, does it? How can Yehovah love us if he's going to send us to a place to get killed? That would be Yehovah hating us, in fact, to bring us out to be killed by the sword. So they say, let us appoint a leader and let us turn back to Mitzrayim. Then Moshe and Aharon fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Yehoshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Yefunah, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their garments. They spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, the land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If Yehovah has delighted in us, then he shall bring us into the land and give it to us, a land which is flowing with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Yehovah, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their defense is turned away from them. Yehovah is with us. Do not fear them. So Joshua and Caleb came being good prophets, so to speak. These are the sort of people that you want to listen to. These are the people that follow Yehovah wholly. They believe Yehovah in what he said. They went and they saw the giants. They saw that to anyone's reckoning, anyone's normal reckoning, you would not be able to go in and conquer the land. It was impossible. They saw that for themselves, but they believed what Yehovah had said. Just like the prophets who come all the way throughout Scripture, and they tell people things that they don't want to hear. These people didn't want to hear, yes, the land is full of giants, but we're going to go in there and go and conquer them because Yehovah is with us. Just like people throughout Scripture didn't want Jeremiah or Isaiah to come to them saying, what Yehovah has said is, don't do this thing which looks like it would turn out for your good. Rather do this thing which looks like it's going to turn out for your bad. People did not receive these prophets well throughout Scripture, as we'll see. Psalm 81, 13-16 says, oh, if my people had listened to me, Yisrael would walk in my ways. I would subdue their enemies at once and turn my hand against their adversaries. Those who hate Yehovah feign obedience to him, and their time would be forever. He would feed them with the finest of wheat, and with honey from the rocks I would satisfy you. So if my people would only listen to me, then I would do good to them. That's the same way that Yehovah would be feeling in this situation, where Joshua and Caleb were coming and saying, this is what the word says. We can trust in the word. Yehovah says, if only they would listen to me, if only they would walk in my ways, then I would give them life eternal. I would feed them with the finest of wheat and honey from the rock, and everything would be great for them. I want to take them into the land. That's what this is about. They've come. They're ready to go in and dwell in that land, and I would satisfy them with the desires of their soul for them to live and be happy and to have abundance and all of those things. If only they would listen to me. That's what I'm trying to bring about. It's what Joshua and Caleb see. In Genesis 22, 1-2, it says, it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham. And he said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, take your son now, your only son Yitzchak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I command you. Abraham didn't say, Elohim is love. How could Elohim want me to kill my son whom I love? Obviously, he doesn't want me to do that. Maybe it's a test to see whether I'll actually kill my son who I love. That's something that Yehovah doesn't want me to do. Surely, Abraham doesn't have that response. He's faced with an impossible situation. Isaac is going to be the seed through whom the promises come. If you kill Isaac, there's no more promise. There's no more nation dwelling in the land. There's no more anything, because it all comes to be through Isaac. Abraham didn't say killing him would create an impossible situation, so I'm not going to do it. Abraham submitted to Yehovah and said, this is what Yehovah has told me to do. Hebrews 11, it says, by belief, because Abraham believed Yehovah. When he was tried, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Yitzchak. And he who had received the promises offered up his only brought forth son, of whom it was said, in Yitzchak, your seed shall be called. Reckoning that Elohim was able to raise even from the dead, from which he received him back as a type. So Abraham didn't rest on his own understanding, lean on his own understanding. Abraham said, I'm going to follow what I've been told to do. If Elohim has made this promise, Elohim is faithful, and I trust him. He is able to raise Isaac from the dead if he needs to. If he says kill him, then he's going to have to raise him from the dead. That is the belief that we are to have. We're not to look at circumstances and say, I can't do this or I can't do that. To look at the circumstances and say, wow, this is going to be interesting. I can't imagine how this is going to work out, but I trust in Yehovah. I trust in his word. In Joshua 23, it says, and it came to be a long time after Yehovah had given rest to Israel from all their enemies round about, that Yehoshua was old, advanced in years. Okay, so Yehoshua came back with the good report of the land, who told the people that they could go in and conquer it. Yehoshua called for all Israel, for their elders, for their heads, for their judges, for their officers, and said to them, I am old, advanced in years, but you've seen all that Yehovah your Elohim has done to all these nations because of you. For Yehovah your Elohim is he who is fighting for you. So his understanding of these things hasn't changed. It's just like, oh, you've seen it now. See, I have divided to you by lot these nations that remain to be an inheritance for your tribes from the Jordan, with all the nations that I have cut off as far as the great sea toward the setting of the sun. And Yehovah your Elohim thrust them out from before you and shall drive them out from before you, and you shall possess their land as Yehovah your Elohim has promised you. So again, what we see here is Joshua believing the word. He said, look, you've seen it now. You've seen what Yehovah has done so far. Okay, you've got a load of nations that are left. I've divided them among you by lot. He's going to drive those out before you. And it's going to be according to his promise again. So Joshua, the way that he speaks to the people has not changed. Joshua is what you would describe as steadfast. His belief is steadfast. Verse 6 says, and you shall be very strong to guard and do all that is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, so as not to turn aside from it right or left. Okay, because this is part of belief in him as well. He's given you these things. Be very careful to do them exactly, so as not to go in among these nations, these who will remain among you, and make no mention of the name of their gods, nor swear by them, nor serve them, nor bow down to them. But cling to Yehovah your Elohim, as you have done this day. For Yehovah has driven out from before you great and strong nations. As for you, no one has stood against you to this day. One man of you has put 1,000 to flight, for Yehovah your Elohim is he who is fighting for you, as he has promised you. And you shall diligently guard yourselves to love Yehovah your Elohim. Because it's not just enough to know that Yehovah has got your back, that he's going to be there for you. Many people can have that faith that Elohim is going to get them through difficult times, largely because they don't have any other choice, because the times are going to be difficult whether or not they believe in Yehovah. So believing that he's going to get them through it is, it's comforting to them. What's also required, though, is that you do not stray from his word, from his Torah, to the right or to the left, because that's part of believing Yehovah and his word, and trusting in his word too. But if you do turn back at all and cling to the remnants of these nations, these that remain among you, and intermarry with them, and go into them and they to you, know for certain that Yehovah your Elohim shall no longer drive these nations out from before you, and they shall be snares and traps to you, and a whip on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land that Yehovah your Elohim has given you. And see, this day I'm going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one word has failed of all the good words which Yehovah your Elohim spoke concerning you. All of it has come to you, and not one word of them has failed. And it shall be that as every good word has come upon you, which Yehovah your Elohim has promised you, so Yehovah does bring upon you every evil word, until he's destroyed you from this good land which Yehovah your Elohim has given you. So it is as certain that if you depart from following Yehovah's word, just as you've seen while you've been doing it, that he's brought upon you all of the good words that he promised, it will be as certain. You can trust in him just as much that he will bring upon you all of the evil. And perhaps people can get away for their lifetimes in doing evil. Probably not if they're actually his people and they turn to wickedness, but maybe they do. Maybe people turn back from following the word and start to be disobedient, and then they start to have success in their life, and they start to value the good things that come from the world, or what they see as good things, the desires of their flesh. What they would see is them living a good life apart from Yehovah. And they're like, see, didn't have to do the word of Yehovah. We can have all of this good in our lives by being disobedient to him, by departing from his word. Ultimately, they will be destroyed. Ultimately, all of the evil that Yehovah has promised to those who do evil will come upon them, even if they get away with it for all of their lives. It is just as sure. So that's the flip side when we trust in Yehovah. If we actually trust him, if we actually believe his word, then we cannot depart from it to do evil. We cannot choose to do evil, because that would mean that we were choosing for evil things to happen to us. And that would make no sense. So it proves somebody's belief conversely as well. If they choose to do that which Yehovah has said in his word will not bring good for them in the end. They don't believe that. They believe that they can actually get good things from doing what is against his word. Then they will prove that is their belief in their actions also. When you transgress the covenant of Yehovah your Elohim, which he commanded you, and shall go and serve other gods and bow down to them, and the displeasure of Yehovah shall burn against you, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which he has given you. Because this is a characteristic of a good prophet also. Good prophet doesn't just come and tell you that it's going to be good if you follow the word of Elohim. They will tell you the flip side, that it is going to be bad if you don't follow the word of Elohim. This is what the prophets did throughout Scripture and what made them so unpopular. In the book of Amos, it says, "Hear this word, you cows of Bashan, who are on the mountains of Shomeron, who are oppressing the poor, who are crushing the needy, who are saying to their masters, bring wine, let us drink. The Master Yehovah has sworn by his set apartness, see, days are coming upon you when he shall take you away with hooks and your descendants with fish hooks, and let you go out at the breaches, each woman before her, and you shall be cast out toward Harmon, declares Yehovah." So the prophets would come and they would say that it was going to be bad for people if they disobeyed Yehovah's word. In Deuteronomy 27:26, we see what people do today. It says, "Cursed is he who does not establish the words of this Torah." And all the people shall say, Amen. That's what people do today. They say that they believe his word. His word says, "Cursed is he who does not establish the words of this Torah." All the people say, Amen, we agree to it. And yet, a large percentage of them will then turn around and be disobedient. They agree to the word, but then they show that they do not believe the word. 1 Kings 18:17-18 said, "And it came to be when Achav saw Eliyahu that Achav said to him, 'Is that you, O disturber of Yisrael?' To those who do not have belief, those who do not believe his word, that is how people are who do believe his word. They are people who trouble them. They're people who disturb them. O troubler of Yisrael, or O disturber of Yisrael." Because people who don't believe his word don't want to be troubled by somebody who comes along and says, "No, really, you need to believe his word. It says that if you continue in the way that you're walking now, things are going to be terribly bad for you. If you were to turn around, things would be better. I know this situation seems impossible, but really, this is what you've got to do." To people who don't believe, they're people who trouble them. Verse 18 says, "And he answered, I have not disturbed Israel, but you and your father's house, and that you have forsaken the commands of Yehovah and have followed the Baals." You see, the people who are receiving this would not ever believe that. I'm not troubling you. You're the one that's bringing trouble upon yourself by not obeying Yehovah's commands and by following after the nonsense of the world. Luke 6:22-23 says, "Blessed are you when men shall hate you, and when they shall cut you off, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as wicked for the sake of the son of Adam." Important caveat there at the end, for the sake of the son of Adam. Not you're blessed when everyone hates you and doesn't want to speak to you and speaks against you. But when they do that, because you are speaking truth. "Rejoice in that day and leap for joy. For look, your reward is great in heaven, for that is how their fathers treated the prophets." So this is how we are to be. We are to receive this reproach from people for what many people see as taking things too far with our obedience to the word. People will speak evil against us, but it is absolutely incumbent upon us to speak truth to people, even when it's going to make us unpopular. As we've seen, the words that we speak have a dramatic effect on the people that we speak it to, and our unbelief affects the people that we speak to. Jeremiah 37 says, "And the word of Yehovah came to Yirmiyahu the prophet, saying, Thus said Yehovah, the Elohim of Israel, say this to the king of Yehudah who sent you to me to inquire of me. See, Pharaoh's army, which has come up to help you, shall turn back to Mitzrayim, to their own land. And the Chaldeans shall return and fight against this city and take it and burn it with fire. Thus said Yehovah, do not deceive yourselves, saying, the Chaldeans shall go away from us. for they do not go. For though you had smitten the entire army of the Chaldeans who were fighting against you, and there remained only wounded men among them, they would get up, each man in his tent, and burn the city with fire. Do you think that this made Jeremiah a popular man? The people were all thinking, ooh, maybe we can actually trust in Pharaoh's army to come and help us. We put ourselves in this situation. It's our disobedience which has got us here. But maybe actually we're going to be okay in our disobedience. Maybe we can trust on this thing that we can see before us. The opposite of seeing an impossible situation and saying, I cannot follow Yahuwah's word, is seeing a situation wherein if you disobey his word, you can see a way for everything to still be fine. So don't deceive yourselves in that way. People do deceive themselves. Even if they killed all of the army of the Chaldeans who's come against you, even if all of them were smitten, rather, and there were only wounded men among the Chaldeans, what Yahuwah has said will come to pass. You've got to believe what Yahuwah has said. It's like Abraham believed what he had said. So he believed that even if he killed his son, Yahuwah would raise him from the dead. The same is true in the opposite. You think, oh, actually, I'm going to be fine here. I can change events, or I can do this or that in my life, and I'm going to create a life where actually I'm fine. The opposite is true. You must believe Yahuwah's word, that he is the one that's in control, and you can't manipulate events to be how you want or to avoid the consequences that you want to avoid. You believe Yahuwah, even if you couldn't possibly see how the situation was going to be any different from how you've imagined it in your head, Yahuwah's will be done. Jeremiah 38, 1-6. And Shephatiah, son of Matan, and Gedaliah, son of Pashur, and Yuchal, son of Shalom-Yahu, and Pashur, son of Malachiah, heard the words which Yirmiyahu had spoken to all the people. Okay, so Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, not a popular man. He said, thus said Yahuwah, he who remains in this city shall die by the sword, by scarcity of food, and by pestilence. But whoever goes over to the Chaldeans shall live, and his life shall be as a prize to him, and he shall live. So do what seems to be the wrong thing to do, because Yahuwah says to do it. Not the morally wrong thing to do, but the thing which would be imprudent to do in the situation. Thus said Yahuwah, this city is certainly given into the hand of the king of Babel's army, and he shall take it. Then the head said to the king, please let this man be put to death, because he is weakening the hands of the men of battle who are left in this city, and the hands of all the people by speaking such words to them. Whereas what is actually happening is people who are saying, don't do Yahuwah's word. They're the ones who are weakening the hands of the people who believe that Yahuwah is Elohim. They're weakening their hands so as to disobey Yahuwah. But to somebody who doesn't believe, this is how it seems to them when somebody who does believe is saying, no, we must believe the word and do what would seem like it wasn't the proper thing to do, something that would seem to bring about bad consequences. When they see somebody saying that, when they see us saying that, they say, oh no, that's not good advice. You shouldn't be telling people to do that. It's going to end badly for them. Please let this man be put to death. He's weakening the hands of the men of battle who are left in this city, in the hands of all the people by speaking such words to them. We can embolden people in their obedience. We can weaken them in their obedience too. For this man does not seek the peace of this people, but the evil. So to those who don't believe, it's always going to seem like lunacy to tell them to trust Elohim. To the people who do believe, it's always going to seem like lunacy to tell people not to trust in Yahuwah. And Zidkiyahu the king said, look, he is in your hand, for the king is unable to do any matter against you. And they took Yirmiyahu and they threw him into the dungeon of Malchiyahu, the king's son, who was in the court of the guard. And they let Yirmiyahu down with ropes, and in the dungeon there was no water but mud. So Yirmiyahu sank in the mud. So don't expect to receive a grateful welcome when you come to people telling them the hard truths of the word of Elohim. Even though those words are words which will bring to them life, expect them to see those things as you trying to trouble them and trying to get them into a situation which will not be good for them. 1 Corinthians 5, 9 to 13 says, I wrote to you in my letter not to company with those who whore, with fornicators. I certainly did not mean with those of this world who fornicate, those of the world who fornicate, or with the greedy of gain, or swindlers, or idolaters, since then you would need to go out of the world. But now I have written to you not to keep company with anyone called a brother, if he is one who fornicates, or greedy of gain, or an idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, a swindler, not even to eat with such a one. When it comes to those who are brothers and sisters, we are not to keep company with them if they are ones who do not believe the word of Elohim, if they are people who, in fact, do the opposite. Okay, they will unrepentantly sin. They will do those things that the word of Elohim says will bring disastrous consequences upon them. We're not to keep company with them. We've seen that the effect of the words of such people can be powerful on others. You might think, oh, I'm strong enough to be around those people, but the word of Elohim says, do not keep company with them if they do those things. Not those of the world, okay, because it's not an issue of whether you believe the word or don't believe the word with them. What have I to do with judging outsiders? Do you not judge those who are inside? Elohim judges those who are outside. Put the wicked one away from you. A little leaven leavens the entire lump. Do not tolerate any leaven. People are willfully sinning, and they are people who do not believe the word of Elohim and prove so through their actions. Do not keep company with them. Mark 10, 29 to 30 says, Yeshua said, truly I say to you, there is no one who has left house or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for the sake of me and the good news, who shall not receive 100-fold now in this time houses and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and land with persecutions, and in the age to come everlasting life. By speaking to people and by telling them these things, you may well have people depart from you. It may well be your family. They may well depart from you. That will have been something, that will have been a loss to you for the sake of Yeshua, sake of the word, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the good news. These people may well depart from you. But Yeshua says, if you do it for my sake, then you will receive blessing. It may be a close brother, it may be a close sister to you, who, they believe that Yahovah is Elohim. They like reading the scriptures. They like talking about Yahovah. They've changed their life in accordance with the scriptures. And they look ostensibly like somebody who follows Yahovah. But if they are willfully sinning, they actually don't believe the word, even though they believe that the word is Yahovah's word. They believe that Yahovah is Elohim, but they do not believe him. You are to depart from them. Again, it's a difficult situation. It's a situation in which our hearts and heads might say to do something different, but the word says, do not company with them. Don't even eat with such a person. John 15:18-20 says, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they shall persecute you too. If they've guarded my word, they will guard yours too. So again, this is particularly significant to people who have unbelieving spouses, who are people of the world. When it comes to you following your beliefs, when it comes to you believing the word of Elohim and doing what it says, they're not going to take kindly to that for all the reasons that we've seen. Okay, they will speak arrogant words against Yahovah, and they'll say, oh, how could it be like this? You know, Yahovah doesn't want you to do that. If he's God, then he wouldn't want this situation to be, to be the situation. They will doubt Yahovah, and they will receive what you are saying badly, just as the world, when Yeshua came into the world, received what Yeshua was saying badly. This is also regretfully true of people who believe that Yahovah is Elohim, but do not believe in him. They walk in the ways of the world in whatever regard, rather than in Yahovah's ways. You can expect them to persecute you. You can expect them to hate you. And if that is the situation that results as a result of you doing it for his sake, for the sake of the word, or for the sake of the good news, then that is something that you will be blessed for. Jeremiah 38:17-23 says, Yirmiyahu said to Zidkiyahu, thus said Yahovah, the Elohim Zevaot, the Elohim of Yisrael, if you do indeed surrender to the heads of the king of Babel, then your king shall live, and this city shall not be burned with fire, and you and your house shall live. But if you do not surrender to the heads of the king of Babel, then this city shall be given into the hand of the Chaldeans. They shall burn it with fire, and you shall not escape from their hand. So this was a situation in which they were being asked to do something which they really didn't want to do, which would have seemed to be a bad idea. Surrender to this invading army. Give up Jerusalem. Let them come into Jerusalem and conquer it. That's the word that came from Yahovah. Now they had the choice. If they believed the word, then things were going to end up good for them, even though it seemed like a crazy thing to do in the situation. If they believed the word, everything would have ended up good for them. If they chose to stay within the defenses of Jerusalem and to, in inverted commas, protect themselves, things would be bad for them. Then Zidkiyahu the king said to Yirmiyahu, I am afraid of the Yehudim who have gone over to the Chaldeans, lest they give me into their hand and they maltreat me. So he said, no, listen, you don't understand. In my own personal circumstances, I've got a reason why it would be bad for me personally to do that. But Yirmiyahu said, they shall not hand you over. Please obey the voice of Yahovah which I speak to you. Let it be well with you, and let your life be spared. But if you refuse to surrender, this is the word that Yahovah has shown me. Then see, all the women who are left in the king of Yehudah's house shall be surrendered to the heads of the kings of Babel. And see, they are saying, your close friends have set upon you and prevailed against you. Your feet have sunk in the mire, they have turned away again. And they are going to surrender all your wives and children to the Chaldeans, and you yourself shall not escape from their hand, will be taken by the hand of the king of Babel, and this city be burned with fire. So no, your personal excuse for not doing it isn't going to be a reason why you should not do it. Not a reason to disbelieve the word of Yahovah. Whatever's going on in your life, trust in Yahovah. Things will be well with you. If not, it's going to end very badly for you. So, for each person who is watching this video, I would ask you to use the word of Elohim that you have heard today. And take a look at yourself. Ask yourself, are you one who believes that the word can be, in some circumstances, a burden to do? Can be, in some circumstances, something that you can't do? Or something that will be bad for you if you do it? Honestly, look at yourself and ask, are there things in my life which I don't do for whatever reason? I don't trust the word of Yahovah. I believe that he's Elohim. I believe that his word came from him, but I don't trust him because I don't do those things. Even if you think I do trust Yahovah, look at it from the perspective of Scripture. Do you have things that you say that you can't do? Do you have things that you say that you can't give up? Do you think, in some circumstances, doing the word of Elohim might bring about bad consequences for you? Are you one who believes that things can be good sometimes in some circumstances if you disobey? That it will bring about that desirable outcome if you disobey? Or are you one who believes that things will be bad if you disobey? And the thing that comes along with that, are you one who believes that you can do anything if Yahovah is with you? They're the two attitudes of mind. That's belief and unbelief. If you think that those circumstances may arise, which will be bad, if you do something or stop doing something, then that is unbelief. If you're one who believes that things will be bad if you disobey, and that you can do anything in Yahovah's word, even if you don't understand how it could possibly happen and it seems impossible to you, that is the state of mind of belief. You cannot have one of those without the other. Okay? If you tell people that disobeying the word is bad, also tell them, although it looks hard, that is how Yahovah tests people, and you can do anything if Yahovah is with you. Those two things have to go hand in hand. You can't just be a prophet of doom going about telling people that they're all going to die and that God hates them and they're all going to hell or whatever if they're not following the word. You also have to give them the flip side of that. That even though things look bad, or even though you might see that as a hard thing to conquer, you can do anything if Yahovah is with you. And if you tell people that sometimes there are things that you can't do, i.e. that obedience can be bad, except that you are necessarily telling me, this is the implication of what you're saying, is that disobedience can sometimes be good. So whichever mindset you are of, recognize that that is the message that you are giving to people. Okay? If you're telling them sometimes, oh, maybe you don't want to follow the word there, you love Yahovah and you follow Yahovah 99.9% of the time. You do follow him, you do love him, you do trust him. But just in that one instance, there's something in your life which prevents you from being able to do it, or prevents you from being able to stop doing whatever it is. You are necessarily giving people the message that sometimes disobedience is good. And from what we have seen today, we can see that our words are powerful and they affect other people. They affect the picture that we paint of Yahovah, and we can either strengthen people's hands in doing what he asks in impossible circumstances, or we can weaken their hands in the same circumstances. Philippians 4:12-13 says, I know what it is to be humbled, and I know what it is to have an excess. In any and every situation, I have learned both to be filled and to be hungry, both to have it in excess and to be in need. I have strength to do all through Messiah who empowers me. That is the state of mind of belief. Whatever the outcome is going to be for me, I've learned in those situations to be satisfied with what the situation is. And I can do all things through Messiah who empowers me. And if I've got to lose my job, my experience when people go in and say that they cannot any longer work Shabbat, the Yahovah works some kind of miracle in that situation. That's my personal experience. But that's not a guarantee from him. Maybe you will lose your job. Maybe the bad consequences that you fear will come about in some form. Know, though, that Yahovah is with you. And you can do all through Mashiach, through Yahovah. Verse 10 says, "But all the congregation said to stone them with stones. Then the esteem of Yahovah appeared in the tent of meeting before the children of Israel." So this is what you should expect too, as we've seen. When you come to people, you come to fellow believers in Yahovah, if they are people who don't believe him, you should expect this response. Because this was the response of the children of Israel. Although they had seen his power, although they believed him to be Elohim, when it came to it, they didn't trust him. They didn't believe what he had said about vanquishing their enemies. They trusted their eyes. They trusted the fears that they had within them. People are the same today. So if you are as Joshua and Caleb, and you are one who believes Yahovah, expect this to be the response of people when you come to them. It was the response of the people all the way throughout history to the prophets who came to them. But that doesn't mean that in any way this should not be how you approach them. It is incumbent upon you to approach somebody in this way. And if they will not listen to you, and they will continue in their unbelief, to not company with them anymore, because a little leaven leavens the whole lump. So we'll come back in a little while. Let's see. Ashley, what time is it, please? Right, Ian. Okay, so we'll come back at 4:45. Okay, so 25 minutes, 27 minutes from now, we'll come back and we're going to look at how this is, how this concept is seen in the lives of Joshua and Caleb, and we'll just look at a few more of the nuances of this concept, and particularly how it relates to the Torah portion today. So we'll come back in 25 minutes.